At the general's birthday banquet, his wife's male comrade in arms walked straight to the head seat. I silently took my bowl and went to the kitchen. The general suddenly stood up and slapped him across the face, plunging the entire hall into dead silence. On the night of the general's 61st birthday banquet, I arrived at the base banquet hall 2 hours early and double-checked the menu, drinks, projector, birthday peach, and seating chart. This was what Isabella had personally said: "My dad has never had a proper birthday banquet in his life. Put some effort into it and don't let my family's in arms laugh at us." So, I booked the best Lakeview private room in the city with 18 tables, drinks charged separately, and a deposit of $6,800. But 5 minutes before the banquet began, Isabella's male comrade in arms, Alex, walked straight in without even taking off his coat and sat directly in the head seat. At that moment, everyone in the private room turned their eyes to me. Mother-in-law Margaret frowned at first, then, as if she hadn't seen anything, smiled and greeted him. "Alex is here. Come, sit down. You're always the most considerate person. Tonight, help Isabella drink a few extra toasts." Isabella stood beside Alex, holding his coat for him. When she saw me standing by the main table, her face stiffened slightly, and then she lowered her voice and said, "Kane, today is my dad's birthday banquet. Don't come in with a sour face right away. Alex just got back from overseas duty. What's the big deal if he sits here?" I looked at her. 5 years of marriage, and for the first time, I felt her voice was so far away from me. I said, "That's the seat of honor." Alex chuckled, tapping his fingers lightly on the table. "Kane, are you being too sensitive? The general hasn't arrived yet. Sitting here for a moment isn't about taking anything. Besides, we're all family. Why make things so awkward by drawing such clear lines?" The word family rolled off his tongue, yet no one in the private room found it jarring. Instead, Isabella breathed a sigh of relief, as if she had finally found a way out. She tugged at my sleeve and said, "See, he didn't mean anything by it. You're the one twisting things into something bad." I looked down at her hand. This was the same hand that had gripped mine tightly on the day we got our marriage certificate, promising, "No matter what happens, I'll always be on your side." Later, that same hand had straightened Alex's tie, handed him a glass of water, taken my car keys and time, and again brushed off my accusations. "He's just a comrade. Don't be so petty. A man should have some vision." I had heard those words for 5 years. I was silent for 2 seconds, then picked up the bowl from the table. Isabella froze. "What are you doing?" I said, "The kitchen still needs bowls. I'll go get some." My mother-in-law immediately chimed in, "That's right, Kane. Go hurry up the dishes and stop blocking the way here. Today is your father's birthday banquet. As the son-in-law, you should have some sense." A few of the comrades nearby laughed. Isabella married well. Kane is quite handy. A man who can earn money and serve others. Not bad. Just a bit quiet and not great with words. I turned with my bowl and had just reached the door of the private room when a cold, heavy voice came from behind me. "Who told him to sit there?" The entire room fell silent for a moment. I turned around. My father-in-law, General William Harper, stood at the door in a dark gray military uniform, his face grim and intimidating. In his youth, he had been a base commander, and even after retirement, he remained upright and stern. Isabella and I had been married for 5 years. He was never particularly warm toward me, but he never took advantage of me either. Every time I brought something to the Harper family, he would make me take half of it back, saying that our lives as a young couple were our own and that I shouldn't drain myself for them. But fewer and fewer people in this household truly listened to him. Margaret's expression shifted, and she quickly stepped forward. "Old William," Alex just sat down for a moment. "Don't get upset on your birthday today." William didn't look at her. His gaze was fixed directly on Alex. Alex stood up, wearing that gentle, innocent expression. "General, happy birthday. I thought since you hadn't arrived yet, I'd greet the guests on your behalf." No other intention. William walked over step by step. Isabella seemed to sense something was wrong and quickly moved to block Alex. "Dad, Alex meant well. Don't be so serious. Your comrades are all watching." William stopped in front of the head seat, staring at Alex for 2 seconds. The next moment, he raised his hand. A sharp slap landed hard on Alex's face. A sharp smack echoed through the private room, silencing everyone. Alex's head snapped to the side, his lips quickly turning red. Isabella screamed, "Dad!" Her mother-in-law was also stunned. "Old William, have you lost your mind? It's your birthday today. Why are you hitting the child? William pointed at the seat of honor, his voice low, but every word clear. This is my birthday banquet, not your stage for willfulness. Alex, that seat is not yours to take. Alex covered his face, his eyes instantly reddening. General, I really just William sneered, just using my birthday banquet to boost your own image. Just stepping on my son-in-law's face to make others think you're half a son of the Harper family. At these words, the eyes of the comrades finally shifted. Some looked at me, some at Isabella, and a few muttered, "What does that mean?" Isabella's face turned pale. "Dad, don't make it so harsh. Alex and I have been comrades for years. He's not as complicated as you think." William turned to her. "Then what about your husband?" Isabella froze. William asked, "He paid for the banquet. He came early to set up. He confirmed the seating arrangements table by table. He checked the list of comrades one by one. You let another man take the seat of honor, but made him carry bowls to the kitchen. Isabella, tell me, who is your husband?" The room fell silent, save for the hum of the air conditioner. I stood at the door holding the bowl, suddenly finding it absurd. This statement wasn't spoken by my wife on my behalf, but by my father-in-law. Isabella's eyes instantly reddened. She looked at me as if blaming me for not helping her out of situation. "Kane, say something." I looked at her and said, "Say what?" She bit her lip. "You know my dad has a quick temper. Can't you just smooth things over? With so many comrades here today, Alex got beaten up like this. How is he supposed to face anyone in the future?" I almost laughed. She was worried about how Alex would face people in the future, but never asked me how I was supposed to hold my head up in front of the Harper family comrades after being sent to the kitchen. I put the bowl back on the table, took a folded bill from my pocket, and placed it in the center of the main table. "The banquet deposit is $6,800, the balance is $11,300, and the drinks are estimated at $4,200. I'll cover all of today's expenses." Then I took out the car keys and set them next to the bill. This car was my down payment before marriage, and I paid the loan after. Alex has been driving it for 3 months. After tonight, I'm taking it back. Finally, I looked at Isabella, and after the birthday banquet, we'll talk about divorce. The private room instantly erupted. My mother-in-law shrieked, "Kane, what do you mean by this? Today is your father's birthday banquet. Who are you trying to scare with talk of divorce?" Isabella stared at me in disbelief. "Over just a seat, you want a divorce?" I nodded. "It's not because of a seat." My voice was very calm. "It's because I finally realized that in this family, I don't even have a seat." With that, I turned and walked out. As I passed by Alex, he suddenly lowered his voice and said, just loud enough for me to hear, "Kane, who are you trying to fool with your high and mighty act? Isabella won't divorce you. She can't live without me, and she can't bear to give up your money. You'll make a fuss for a couple of days at most, and in the end, you'll come back to clean up the mess." My steps halted. The phone's recording button had been lit for 17 minutes. I didn't turn around, only said flatly, "Then let's see who gets the last laugh this time." I didn't leave the banquet hall immediately. After stepping out, I went to the corridor near the kitchen, where a temporary serving cart was set up and waiters were busy bringing out dishes. No one noticed me. I leaned against the wall and replayed the recording I just made on my phone. Alex's voice was very clear. "Isabella won't divorce you. She can't leave me. And she can't bear to give up your money." Those 2 sentences weren't long, but they were sharp. Enough. I saved a backup of the recording to the cloud and also took a photo of the bill from the head table. After doing all this, I realized my hands were perfectly steady. 5 years ago, the first time I argued with Isabella over Alex, my hands trembled so badly I couldn't even hold a cup. That day was our first wedding anniversary. I had booked a restaurant in advance, but Isabella said at the last minute that Alex was heartbroken over a breakup and was alone by the bay seaside letting the wind blow through him. She said she was worried and had to go check on him. I told her today was our anniversary, and she said anniversaries come every year, but a person only gets one chance to truly lose hope. I chased her to the seaside and saw Alex leaning on her shoulder, his eyes red. When she looked up and saw me, her first words weren't an explanation, but an accusation. "Kane, are you following me?" After that, similar incidents kept piling up. Alex had a stomachache, and she drove my car in the middle of the night to take him to the hospital. Alex failed in his business, and she secretly transferred money from our joint account to help him out. Alex said his dormitory wasn't safe, and she let him temporarily store his belongings in the storage room of our wedding home. Every time I expressed discomfort, she said I was overthinking it. Why are you, a grown man, always picking on a fellow soldier? He has no family to help him. If I don't help him, who will? Don't worry, I know my limits. I thought her so-called limits at least meant not letting him sit at the head table at her father's birthday banquet. As it turned out, I still overestimated her. Footsteps echoed from the end of the hallway. Isabella chased after me, her face flushed with anger and grievance. Kane, haven't you caused enough trouble? I looked up. I caused trouble? She lowered her voice. Do you know how embarrassed Alex was just now because of Dad's slap? He came in good faith to celebrate the birthday and ended up being laughed at by all the comrades. Even if you don't like him, you can't kick him when he's down. I looked at her and suddenly asked, what about me? Isabella was taken aback. What do you mean? What about you? When I was sent to the kitchen, did you think I was embarrassed? She frowned. What do you mean, sent to the kitchen? You said you wanted to go because you told me not to make a fuss. You shouldn't have made a fuss in the first place. She seemed unable to hold back any longer, her voice rising. It was just a seat and you had to make a big deal out of it. Today is my dad's birthday, not a place for you to save face. I smiled. So, my dignity doesn't matter? She pursed her lips, her tone softening a bit. That's not what I meant, Kane. We've been married for 5 years. You know my personality. I just don't like making the comrades too uncomfortable. Alex hasn't had it easy these years, either. Why do you have to force him? Did I force him to take the seat of honor? She was choked up. I continued. Did I force him to drive my car? Force him to spend our money? Force him to move his things into our house? Or did I force him to say, you can't leave him and you can't bear to part with my money? Isabella's face changed. What do you mean? I held my phone screen up to her. The recording progress bar was paused at the last 10 seconds. Alex's words, he can't leave me and can't bear to part with your money, rang out. Clearly in the hallway, Isabella's expression froze bit by bit. She instinctively tried to grab my phone. He's just talking nonsense. Don't take it out of context. I dodged her hand. Out of context? Then should I send the first 17 minutes to the family group chat and let everyone listen together? Panic flickered in her eyes, quickly turning into anger. Kane, when did you become so terrifying? You actually recorded a conversation between a married couple. Ever since I discovered that $180,000 was missing from our joint account, Isabella froze completely. I stared at her 3 days before the birthday banquet. The card ending in 7261 transferred $180,000 to Alex with the note, consulting fee. Isabella, what kind of consulting fee costs $180,000? Her lips moved. His studio was having cash flow issues. I was just lending it to him using our joint account. That account has my money, too. I stared at her. It includes this month's mortgage, my mother's post-surgery checkup fees, and the final payment for your father's birthday banquet. You took it and lent it to a man who sat in your father's seat of honor, drove my car, and humiliated me. And then you tell me it has your money, too. Isabella's face turned pale, her voice dropping. I'll make him pay it back. I nodded. Fine. She thought I was relenting and was about to speak. I dialed the bank's customer service right in front of her. Hello, I'd like to suspend the online payment permissions for the account ending in 7261 and request the transaction details for the past 2 years. Isabella jerked her head up. Kane. I didn't look at her. Also, immediately report the supplementary card ending in 0927 as lost and freeze the credit limit. She rushed over and grabbed my hand. Are you crazy? That's my supplementary card. The customer service representative on the phone was still verifying my identity. I calmly finished providing the information and hung up. Isabella's eyes turned red, not from sadness, but from anger. This is financial control. Kane, I never thought you'd stoop so low. I looked at her. Spending your husband's money to support a male comrade, that's not low. She raised her hand to slap me, but halfway down, someone caught it. William was standing at the corner of the hallway, his face even darker than in the private room. Isabella. His voice was cold. Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough? Isabella clung to him like a lifeline. Dad, did you hear that? He froze my card. He wants a divorce, and he's going to check the bank records. William looked at her, his eyes full of disappointment. He should. Margaret also rushed out, and upon hearing this, she immediately panicked. Old William, what nonsense are you talking about? It's their money as a young couple. What do you mean by taking advantage? What's wrong with Isabella lending a little money to her comrade? William turned around sharply. 18,000 is a little. Margaret choked, then started throwing a tantrum again. That's just Isabella being kind. Besides, Alex will definitely pay it back. Is Kane really a man making such a fuss over something so trivial? I suddenly felt there was no point in listening anymore. I grabbed my coat and walked past them toward the elevator. Isabella shouted from behind, Kane, if you leave today, don't bother coming back. The elevator doors opened and I stepped inside looking at her. Fine. I don't want to go back to a home where just anyone can walk in anyway. Just before the doors slowly closed, I saw real panic appear on Isabella's face for the first time. Too bad. It was too late. When the elevator reached the first floor, my phone buzzed. A temporary bank statement had arrived. Over the past 2 years, Isabella hadn't transferred $180,000 to Alex. It was $736,400. Sitting in the car outside the hotel, I stared at that number feeling no anger. Only a chilling clarity. $736,400. And that didn't include the cash she had withdrawn, the spending on the supplementary card, or the gas card, toll fees, and maintenance costs for my car. I sent a screenshot of the statement to my lawyer friend, James Carter. James and I have known each other for 10 years. Back when I was struggling the most at work, he reviewed my first contract. Later, he shifted to family law and civil disputes, often saying that the hardest thing to settle isn't money, it's the human heart. He replied quickly, keep the original transaction records. Don't just rely on screenshots. Come to the office tomorrow. Bring the premarital property deed, car purchase contract, joint account records, and transfer logs. I replied, divorce. Recover the money. He answered with just 4 words, don't go soft. I stared at those 4 words for a long time, then started the car and drove to the marital home. The home was in the old northern part of the city, a 3-bedroom apartment I had bought before marriage. Back then, property prices hadn't surged yet. I poured all the savings I had accumulated over 8 years into it, then designed and renovated it myself. When Isabella first came to see it, she stood by the floor-to-ceiling window and said, Kane, this will be our home. I believed her. So, when she said after marriage that she wanted to turn the storage room into a piano room, I agreed. When she said her mother had a bad back and the guest room mattress needed replacing, I replaced it. When she said Alex's materials had no place to go and asked if she could borrow a corner of the storage room, I felt uneasy but still agreed. But that corner kept growing, from 2 cardboard boxes to a whole row of storage cabinets, and then into a temporary workspace Alex could use any time. When I got home, the door lock still open with the code, the lights were on inside, and a pair of men's combat boots sat by the entrance. Not mine. I stood at the door for a few seconds, then suddenly left. Some answers didn't need investigating. The living room was empty, but voices came from the balcony. I walked over and saw Alex leaning against the balcony railing on the phone, his face still bearing the red mark from the slap the general had given him. Don't worry, Isabella will handle it. Kane is the type who's tough on the outside but soft on the inside. Scare him a little and he'll come back. Whatever was said on the other end of the phone made him snicker. They've lived in that house for 5 years after marriage. How could it possibly be changed just like that? Besides, if Isabella really goes through with the divorce, doesn't he have to give her half? I spoke up from behind him. Who told you that? Alex spun around, nearly dropping his phone. His expression shifted for a moment before quickly returning to calm. You're back. Perfect timing. I still have some things to pack up. I looked toward the storage room. The door was half open, and inside there wasn't just cardboard boxes, but also a folding bed, a toiletry bag, a few jackets, and even a pair of slippers. I asked, "You've stayed here?" Alex shrugged. Occasionally, when I work late, Isabella lets me crash here for the night. We're all friends. You're not going to get upset over that, are you? I am upset, he laughed. Then go talk to Isabella about it. Why are you taking it out on me? I pulled out my phone and took a picture of the storage room. Alex's face darkened. Kane, don't go too far. Taking pictures of my privacy is illegal. This is my house. He froze. I said each word deliberately. Full down. Payment before marriage, mortgage before marriage. I'll settle the post-marriage repayment portion according to the law. But right now, I am the sole owner of this property. You've been occupying it long-term without my consent, and I have the right to demand you move out immediately. The disguise on Alex's face finally cracked. Who are you trying to scare? Isabella won't agree. Whether he agrees or not doesn't affect my decision to change the locks. I called the property management and asked them to contact a locksmith. Alex rushed over to grab my phone, but I sidestepped and he lost his balance, crashing into the coffee table. His face turned even uglier. 10 minutes later, Isabella rushed back. As soon as she entered, she saw me and Alex facing off and immediately stepped in front of Alex. Kane, how long are you going to keep this up? Alex was beaten up by my dad tonight, and I just let him come home to cool off. What's the big deal? I looked at her. Is this our home or your home? She frowned. Don't talk like that. Answer me. Isabella pursed her lips. Of course it's our home. Then why didn't I know he had slippers, a toiletry bag, and a folding bed here? Her eyes darted away. Sometimes he works late. Works late enough to sleep in someone else's wedding home? She snapped in anger. Kane, can't you keep your mind clean for once? Alex knows his limits. I opened my phone and pulled up a screenshot from the property surveillance. On the 3rd of last month at 11:40 p.m., he came in. He left at 7:20 a.m. the next morning. You were out of town for training that day. Isabella's face instantly turned pale. Alex panicked. I came that day to pick up some documents. I too tired and dozed off on the couch for a bit. I kept scrolling. On the 15th of last month at 1:10 a.m. he came in and left at 9:30 a.m. on the 16th. You said you were staying at the hospital with your mother-in-law that day. Isabella opened her mouth but couldn't speak. I looked at her. Did you know or didn't you? She avoided my gaze. That was answer enough. The locksmith arrived. Isabella blocked the door, refusing to let him change the locks. Her voice trembling. Kane, you can't do this. This is my home too. You can stay of course until the divorce is finalized. I won't illegally kick you out. I glanced at Alex but he can't. Alex sneered. You think changing the locks means you've won. What about the car? My stuff is still in it. I pulled the spare key from my pocket. Speaking of the car, I checked the GPS on my phone. It's parked outside a bar in the west end of town. That car, I'm the buyer, the loan holder, and the insurance policy holder. As of today, you have no right to use it. I've already notified the towing company. If you keep driving it, I'll report it as unauthorized use. Isabella finally panicked. I need that car for daily use too. How am I supposed to get to work if you take it back? Subway, bus, taxi, I said flatly. Or have Alex buy you one. She looked at me as if I'd said something absurd. You're my husband. Not for much longer. The room fell silent. Alex looked at Isabella, then at me, and suddenly let out a laugh. Isabella, do you see this? This is the man you married. Threatening you with the house and car. Controlling you. Forcing you to back down. Isabella's eyes reddened. In the past, that look would have been enough to soften me. But tonight, I just picked up the car keys from the table. Alex, move. All your stuff out within 3 days or I'll have the property management and a lawyer oversee the cleanup. With that, I went into the bedroom to gather my documents. Marriage certificate, property deed, car purchase contract, bank USB key, prenuptial agreement, all into a file folder. Isabella stood at the doorway watching me. Finally showing a hint of panic. You're really going through with the divorce? I zipped up the folder. Isabella, I'm not arguing with you. I looked at her. I'm telling you I'm done at 7:00. The next morning, the Harper family group chat exploded. Mother-in-law Margaret was the first to attack. Kane, you're so heartless. Last night at old William's birthday party, you made a scene in public and made Isabella cry for half the night. No marriage is without its bumps. For a misunderstanding between comrades, you freeze the card, change the locks, and want a divorce. Do you have any conscience? Soon, others chimed in. Kane, you can't be so calculating in a marriage. A man should be magnanimous. Isabella is beautiful and filial. You should cherish her. I've met that kid Alex. He seems sensible, not a bad person. Young couples argue, but don't bring money into it. It hurts the relationship. I sat in the law firm's conference room reading each message. James sat across from me pushing a cup of coffee over. Going to reply? I said. Yes. He raised an eyebrow. Remember, once it's public, there's basically no turning back. I smiled. I never planned to turn back anyway. I first sent a picture, the payment receipt for my father-in-law's birthday banquet. Last night's banquet deposit was $6,800, the balance $11,300, and the drink deposit $4,200, all paid by me. The seating chart, menu, gift table, and projection video were also arranged by me in advance. The group chat went silent for over 10 seconds. I continued posting. The second page, a summary of my transfers to the Harper family over the past 2 years. My mother-in-law's lumbar surgery cost $3,200. My brother-in-law Edward's shop rent was $12,000. My father-in-law's monthly medical checkups and medication came to $4,000. The old house renovation was $21,000. And holiday gifts and red envelopes, not fully accounted for, totaled $9,800, adding up to $50,600. The third page, Isabella's transaction records to Alex, 736400. I added no emotion, writing only one sentence, "Dear elders, please help me judge who was scheming against whom." The group chat went completely silent. The third aunt, who had just urged me to be magnanimous, was the first to change her tune. Isabella transferred this much money to Alex. Another uncle sent a question mark. Over $700,000 borrowing that much between comrades in arms. My mother-in-law immediately jumped in. This is a private matter between the young couple. Why are you posting it in the group? Kane, do you have any manners? I stared at the screen, my fingers steady. Last night, it was also a family matter. You could judge me in the group, so why can't I defend myself here? Margaret snapped in fury. What's wrong with a son-in-law spending a bit of money on his wife's family? Isabella married you and gave you 5 years of her youth. Before I could reply, William's message popped up. Margaret, shut up. The group fell silent again. William rarely spoke in the group and even more rarely in that tone. Half a minute later, he sent another message. Kane, I haven't treated the Harper family unfairly over the years. What happened last night was Isabella and our Harper family's fault. If anyone tries to pull rank on him again, come to me first. I stared at the message, unsure how to feel. My father-in-law wasn't a bad person, but when only one person in a family is clear-headed, it's usually not enough to save the whole mess. Isabella's call came quickly. I answered and put it on speaker. Kane, why did you post the bank statements in the group? Her voice trembled. Do you have any idea how the comrades see me now when you let Alex take the seat of honor? Did you think about how they'd see me? She paused for 2 seconds. That's different. I asked, how is it different? Her voice dropped. I'm your wife. You can't treat me like this. Precisely because you're my wife, I've endured for 5 years. I looked at the documents on the table. But precisely because you're my wife, you should know better what that money means. You took the money I earned through hard work to support a man who humiliated me, and you expect me to endure it gracefully. Isabella, what gives you the right? She started crying. I didn't comfort her. He was really struggling back then. I just wanted to help him. $730,000, he'll pay it back. I asked, when? She couldn't answer. Across from me, James silently slid a form toward me. It listed the materials recommended for preparation: original bank statements, chat records, audio recordings, vehicle usage records, property certificates, and a detailed list of joint debts. I looked at that form and suddenly felt that our marriage was as absurd as a contract awaiting trial. Isabella was still on the phone saying, Kane, stop messing around, okay? I admit I didn't handle things well last night. I can have Alex apologize to you. Just restore the card and don't change the house password. Let's go home and talk it over slowly. Has Alex moved out? She paused, and I knew the answer. He was injured last night. I couldn't just leave him alone. I hung up directly. James let out a laugh. Pretty typical. I asked, typical of what? It's not that she doesn't know you've been wronged. She just thinks your grievances can wait. That sentence stabbed into my heart like a knife. Not too painful, because it had long gone numb. In the afternoon, the towing company called me. The car had been found. Not outside the bar, but impounded by the traffic police under the overpass on the west side of the city. Because Alex had moved the car drunk, crashed into a guardrail, and couldn't produce a vehicle authorization certificate. When I arrived at the traffic police station, Isabella was already there. She saw me and immediately came over. "Kane, hurry up and tell them you agreed to lend the car to Alex." I stopped in my tracks. Alex sat on a chair, pale-faced, but still forcing a dignified front. "Kane, I was in a bad mood last night and had a few drinks. I'll pay for the car repairs. Just help me sort this out first." I looked at him. "When did I ever agree to let you drive?" Alex's face stiffened. Isabella grew anxious. "Don't be stubborn at a time like this." I pulled out the car purchase contract and spare key, and said to the traffic police, "This car is registered under my name. I did not authorize it. Alex has been using it long-term, and the vehicle was previously occupied by him. I'm already preparing to handle this through a lawyer." Isabella looked at me in disbelief. Alex finally panicked. "Kane, are you trying to kill me?" I looked down at him. "When you were in the driver's seat, weren't you acting just like a Harper?" I turned around and signed the papers, coordinating the vehicle retrieval. Behind me, Isabella's voice trembled with tears. "Kane, how did you become like this?" I didn't look back. It wasn't that I had changed, it was that I had finally stopped pretending to be blind for them. My father-in-law was hospitalized 3 days after the birthday banquet. William's blood pressure had always been unstable. That night, enraged and upset, he went home only to be argued with by Margaret and Isabella all night. The next morning, feeling dizzy, he was sent to the hospital. The news came from William himself. "Kane, no need to come. It's nothing serious. Focus on your own things." I looked at the message and still went. Not for Isabella, nor for the in-laws. That slap from William had voiced the grievances I had swallowed for 5 years. I couldn't just abandon basic human decency because of a divorce. I bought some fruit and braised duck. When I reached the hospital room door, I heard Margaret's sharp voice inside. "Are you satisfied now? The birthday banquet turned into a joke. Your son-in-law wants a divorce. All your old comrades are watching our family make a fool of itself." "Did that slap of yours hit Alex?" "No, it slapped Isabella in the face." William's voice was weary. He handed his face out to be stepped on himself. "How did Alex step on his face?" "That kid has been kind enough to accompany Isabella all these years. But now Kane has shown his true colors. Cut off the cards, took back the car, won't let them stay in the house, and you're still defending him." "That was Kane's to begin with." "What do you mean his? They've been married for 5 years. Isn't it joint property?" William coughed a few times, his voice turning cold. "Margaret, if you keep this up, Isabella's divorce is as good as done." I gently knocked on the door outside. The hospital room fell silent. Isabella opened the door, and when she saw me, her eyes first lit up, then grew complicated as she recalled the events of the past few days. "You're here." I handed her the things. "To see Dad." Hearing that address, her eyes instantly reddened. "Kane." I walked past her to the bedside. William saw me inside. "Didn't I say you didn't need to come?" I placed the soy sauce duck on the nightstand. It was on the way. He looked at me in silence for a few seconds. "This kid of mine, stubborn as ever." Margaret snorted from the side. "It's good that you're here. There are some things we need to clear up. Kane, Isabella hasn't been eating or sleeping well these past few days." "Don't go too far. There's no overnight feud between husband and wife. Restore the card. Tell Isabella the house password and sort out the car matter with the traffic police. As for Alex, he's already unlucky enough, so stop hounding him." I looked at Isabella. She lowered her head and didn't argue. I asked, "Is this your intention, too?" She said quietly, "Alex can't have a criminal record. He still needs to work at the base." I nodded. "And what about me?" She looked up, tears glistening in her eyes. "Kane, we're husband and wife. Why do you have to compare yourself to Alex?" I smiled. A gentle voice suddenly came from the doorway. "Isabella, don't say that. Kane will misunderstand me even more." Alex walked in holding a bouquet of flowers, a band-aid still on his face. He wore a light-colored coat, looking haggard yet harmless. Margaret immediately showed concern. "Alex, why are you here, too? Does your face still hurt?" Alex shook his head. "Aunt Margaret, I'm fine. I was just worried about the general." William's face instantly darkened. "Who told you to come?" Alex paused mid-step and gave a bitter smile. General, I know you're still angry with me. I was out of line that day. I admit it. I came today to apologize to you and Kane. He turned to me and bowed deeply. Kane, I'm sorry. That day, I sat in the wrong seat and made you misunderstand. The car incident was my fault, too. But I really didn't mean to take advantage of you. If you find me annoying, I'll stay out of your sight from now on. It's just that Isabella is soft-hearted. Don't hurt her because of me. What a well-crafted speech. Every sentence was an apology, yet every sentence tied Isabella to him. Sure enough, Isabella's eyes reddened. Alex, don't be like this. Margaret chimed in. Kane, look, he's already humbled himself. What more do you want? I pulled out my phone. Since you're apologizing, let's make everything clear in front of everyone. I played the recording. Alex's voice rang out in the hospital room. Isabella won't divorce you. She can't leave me, and she can't bear to give up your money. You'll make a fuss for a day or two at most, and in the end, you'll come back to clean up the mess. The color drained from Alex's face. Margaret fell silent, too. Isabella stared at the phone as if hearing those words clearly for the first time. I stopped the recording and looked at Alex. You just said I misunderstood. So, were those words a misunderstanding, too? Alex's lips trembled. I had just been beaten. I was emotional. I was speaking out of anger. Was taking my car also out of anger? Spending the night in my wedding room out of anger? Isabella transferring you $730,000 out of anger? With every question I asked, the air in the room grew colder. Alex finally dropped the act, his voice hardening. Kane, do you have to go this far? Isabella helped me because she wanted to. Doesn't she have the right to manage your joint assets? Yes, I said. So, I only recover what can be lawfully recovered. Alex's face changed color. Just then, William, lying in the hospital bed, suddenly spoke up. What about the birthday banquet gift money? Everyone turned to look at him. William pulled a folded piece of paper from under his pillow and handed it to me. Kane, take a look. I took it and unfolded it. It was a copy of an IOU. Borrower, Alex. Amount, $26,000. Purpose of loan, for William's birthday banquet expenses and subsequent social obligations. In the guarantor's signature space, Isabella's name was clearly written. Isabella's face instantly turned pale. Margaret was also stunned. What is this? William stared at Alex. The money for my birthday banquet was paid by Kane. You borrowed $26,000 from my comrades in my birthday banquet's name. Where did the money go? Alex was completely panicked. General, there's a misunderstanding here. William pulled off the monitoring clip on his hand and struggled to sit up. Misunderstanding? His eyes were red. I'm 61 years old and you used me as a front at my own birthday banquet. You trampled on my son-in-law. You deceived my daughter. You borrowed money from my comrades. Alex, tell me, which one of these is a misunderstanding? At some point, several people had gathered at the door of the ward. Some relatives, some nurses, and even family members from the neighboring bed. The layer of decency on Alex's face was completely shattered. Isabella stood there swaying as if about to collapse. She looked at me as if trying to grasp at the last straw. Kane, I didn't know about the IOU. I really didn't know. I put the copy of the IOU into the file bag. Whether you knew or not, leave that for the police and the court to decide. With that, I turned and walked out. Isabella chased after me and grabbed my arm in the hallway. Kane, you can't. Call the police. If Alex really gets into trouble, his life will be ruined. I looked down at her hand gripping mine. 5 years of marriage and this was the first time she had begged me like this. Yet, it was still for Alex. I slowly pulled my hand back. And what about my 5 years? She froze. I said, Isabella, the dignity you've destroyed in me over these 5 years, who will pay for that? William didn't call the police immediately. Not out of softness, but because he wanted to sort out all the debts his comrades had incurred first. William is a man of old-fashioned caution, he said. Since we're investigating, we can't just look into the $26,000. We need to find out exactly how much Alex borrowed, whose names he used, and whether Isabella was involved. I respected his decision, but my side of the reckoning didn't stop. James helped me draft the first lawyer's letter. Its contents were simple. First, demand that Isabella cease unauthorized use of the joint account. Second, demand that Alex reimburse the costs of repairs, traffic violations, towing, etc. incurred from the vehicle he occupied. Third, demand that Alex remove all personal belongings from my premarital property within 3 days. Fourth, demand that Isabella cooperate in auditing the abnormal transfers made during the marriage. The day the lawyer's letter was delivered to the Harper family, Margaret showed up at the wedding house with Isabella and her younger brother Edward, causing a scene. I was cleaning out the storage room. Alex had left more stuff than I had imagined. Besides clothes, documents, and a folding bed, there were also several receipts, an account book, and a cooperation agreement for a consulting course. I had just taken photos and sealed them in boxes when the door was pounded from outside. "Kane, open up." It was Margaret. I opened the door. Margaret rushed in, looking around as if she owned the place. "What do you mean? Did you really change the password? Are you trying to kick Isabella out?" Isabella stood behind him, her face haggard. Edward, on the other hand, looked impatient. "Brother-in-law, that's enough. A married couple fighting to the point of sending lawyer letters. How embarrassing is that? I didn't let them into the living room, just stood in the entryway." "Say what you need to say." Margaret exploded. "This is Isabella's home. What kind of attitude is that?" I looked at Isabella. "Do you think so, too?" She bit her lip. "Kane, we've been married for 5 years, and this house has always been where we live together. Living together doesn't mean co-ownership." I turned around and took out copies of the property deed, the purchase contract, and the pre-marriage loan records from the file bag. The house was purchased before marriage. The down payment was paid by me personally, and the property title is registered in my name alone. For the portion of the mortgage repaid jointly during the marriage, I will compensate you for your share according to the law, but this house does not belong to the Harper family." Margaret snatched the copies, threw them on the floor without even looking. "Don't try to scare me with legal jargon. Isabella has been married to you for 5 years. She's been your wife. She's cooked and cleaned for you. This house should be half hers." I glanced at Isabella. She looked embarrassed but didn't stop her. I asked, "Cooked and cleaned?" "For 5 years of marriage, I paid for the housekeeper and I did most of the cooking. Isabella was busy with work and I never made a fuss about household chores. But now that we're dividing assets, it's suddenly her bargaining chip." Edward sneered. "Brother-in-law, cut the act. You're just afraid of losing the house in the divorce. A man should have more class. If you really loved my sister, you'd leave her a house even after the divorce." I looked at him. "Next month's rent for your shop. Pay it yourself." Edward froze. "What do you mean?" "Exactly what I said." I replied, "From today on, I won't cover your rent, utilities, or inventory costs anymore. Nor will I act as your loan guarantor." His face changed instantly. "Then what about the shop? The lease is paid every 6 months. Your shop, your problem." Edward grew anxious. "You said you'd help me back then." "I helped my wife's brother." I looked at him. "Not someone who takes my money while calling me ungrateful." Margaret rushed over and pointed at my nose. "Kane, are you trying to drive our family to ruin?" I calmly pulled out my phone. "Need me to call the police for you?" "You just trespassed, destroyed documents, and made verbal threats." "I've recorded it all." Her hand froze. Isabella finally spoke. "Enough, Mom." She looked at me, her voice hoarse. "Kane, do you really have to be this calculating?" Her eyes reddened. "We've been together for 5 years. Is that all just money to you now?" I looked at her and suddenly found it laughable. Isabella, the first one to turn feelings into money. "Wasn't me." Her face paled. I continued, "When you transferred that first $5,000 to Alex, did you think about our relationship? When you let him sleep in this apartment, did you think about our relationship? When you gave him the seat of honor and sent me to the kitchen, did you think about our relationship then?" She opened her mouth but couldn't speak. Just then, Edward accidentally let it slip. "Sis, didn't you say that money from the training center could be used to tide Alex over first and that brother-in-law wouldn't find out? Now that he's checked everything, aren't you going to talk to him properly?" The living room fell silent instantly. Isabella spun around. "Shut up." I looked at her. The training institution, that money. Isabella's face turned pale. "I remember that money 6 months ago. Isabella said she wanted to partner with a friend to start a children's art training center and was short $30,000 in startup funds. I didn't hesitate and transferred her 30,000, saying, "Consider it my support for your venture." She hugged me and said, "Kane, you're so good to me. Once the institution is stable, I'll make sure you have an easier life." Turns out that money also ended up in Alex's pocket. I lowered my head and let out a laugh. Isabella panicked. "It's not what you think. The institution did use the money, but Alex had an urgent situation. So, I temporarily moved some over." "How much did you move?" She didn't answer. Edward realized he had caused trouble and retreated behind Margaret. I started recording and asked again, "How much did you move?" Isabella's tears fell. 22,000. I nodded. Good. I saved that statement along with her earlier admission. Margaret finally panicked. "Kane, we're all family. There's no need to make this so ugly." I looked at her. "From the moment you let Alex take the head seat, it was already ugly." That day, in front of them, I sealed up all of Alex's belongings in boxes, labeled them, and had the property management move them to the temporary storage room by the entrance. Isabella stood nearby crying the whole time. She might have thought I'd feel sorry for her, but all I felt was that this home had finally become a little cleaner. Edward's store barely lasted 2 weeks. He opened a trendy toy collection store on the 3rd floor of the mall where rent was high and foot traffic was deceptive. When he started the business, he kept saying, "Young people are upgrading their consumption. This will definitely make money in the future." In reality, from the renovation to the shelves, from the initial stock to the mall deposit, I covered everything. At the time, I didn't expect him to pay me back. I just thought Isabella only had this one brother, and if I could help, I would. Looking back now, many people don't drain you because they're cornered. It's that once you bend over for them, they assume your back was made for them to step on. The first time Edward called me was the day before the rent was due. "Brother-in-law, I'm short on cash right now. Can you transfer me 8,000 first? I'll definitely pay you back next month." I was measuring a room at the studio when I answered. And I only said one thing, "Don't call me brother-in-law anymore." He paused, then quickly turned angry. "Are you really going to be this ruthless? My sister hasn't divorced you yet. So, I'm just not lending you money anymore, not suing you." He was choked up. "But you signed the contract with me back then. The mall manager knows you, too. If you bail out now, what will people think of me? What they think of you is your problem." With that, I hung up. In the afternoon, Isabella came to the studio. She was wearing a white dress, her hair down, looking more haggard than a few days ago. In the past, whenever she came to my studio, it was usually to have me pick her up, fix something for her, or handle problems for her family. This time, she was holding my favorite coffee. "Kane, let's talk." I didn't take the coffee, just led her to the conference table. "Divorce, fine." Her eyes dimmed. "Do you have to be so sharp when you talk to me now?" I didn't answer. She set the coffee down, her voice much softer. "Edward's store is about to collapse. You know his personality. If it really closes, he won't be able to handle it." I looked at her. So, she bit her lip. "Help him one more time. Once we sort out the family matters, I'll make sure he pays you back." I laughed. Isabella seemed stunned by my smile. "I know you don't believe me now, but he's my brother, after all. He's your brother, not my son." Her face turned pale. I continued, "And I checked the accounts. Out of the 43,000 you said was for the training institution, 22,000 went to Alex, and the remaining 8,000 went into Edward's store's payment account. In other words, you used my money to trick me into supporting your career, but half went to fill Alex's pockets, and half went to your brother." Isabella's tears suddenly welled up. "I'm not lying to you. I just thought you wouldn't mind." "Of course I wouldn't mind." I looked at her. "Provided you tell me the truth." She choked up. I pushed a printed bank statement in front of her. "Isabella, you're not soft-hearted, you're just used to it. You're used to my money always being there. Used to me always having your back whenever you ask. Alex dared to walk all over me because you let him know my money could be used, my car could be driven, my home could be entered, and I could be casually looked down upon by your whole family." She shook her head. "No, that's not it." I cut her off. "You came today not because you realized you hurt me. You just found out you're out of money." The meeting room was deathly silent. Isabella's face slowly drained of color. She stood up, her voice trembling. "Kane, 5 years. Is that how you see me? And you?" I asked. 5 years. How did you see me?" She froze. I answered for her. ATM, driver, repairman, safety net for your family's debts, and the husband who won't leave in front of Alex. She cried out. I didn't. I took out my phone and opened a screenshot of her chat with Alex. I found it from the synced records on my old tablet. Alex said, "Will Kane be upset?" Isabella replied, "He'll grumble a bit at most, and he'll be fine in a few days. He's soft-hearted. He won't really abandon me." Another message. Alex said, "I'll take the car for a few days so clients don't look down on me." Isabella replied, "Go ahead. He won't need it anytime soon. Even if he finds out, I'll just sweet-talk him." Isabella stared at the screen, her tears stopping. She knew that no matter how much she explained, it was useless. Her voice was very soft at that moment. I just said it casually. I nodded. Now I'm also saying something casually. She looked at me, and I said, "Get out." She trembled all over. This was the first time I had spoken harshly to her. I thought I would feel bad, but after saying it, all I felt was relief. After Isabella left, James had his assistant send a second lawyer's letter. This time addressed to Edward, it demanded that he confirm the nature of the rent, renovation costs, and goods payments I had advanced for the shop over the past 3 years, and provide an explanation of their use within 15 days. If they were loans, the recovery process would begin. If he claimed they were gifts, he would need to provide written proof of the gift from both parties. After receiving the lawyer's letter, Edward cursed loudly in the family group chat, "Kane, are you even a man? My sister married you for 5 years. Now you're trying to drive her brother to death." I didn't reply. Instead, an uncle who had previously advised me chimed in, "Borrowing money and repaying it is only right and proper. It's a favor for your brother-in-law to help you, and it's his right not to." Edward immediately fell silent. The relatives' attitudes had shifted. Before, they thought my silence meant I owed the Harper family something, but now that the financial records were laid out, they realized the one who owed was never me. That evening, William called me. His voice was exhausted. "Kane, Alex has run off." I stood by the window, watching the traffic below. "Where did he go?" "He turned off his phone this afternoon, and the studio is empty. A few of his comrades found me and said, the money he borrowed in my name for the birthday banquet wasn't just $26,000. I asked, "How much?" William was silent for a long time. $113,000. I closed my eyes. William's voice was hoarse. "I'll report it to the police tomorrow. As for Isabella, handle it however you need to. Don't worry about me." I said, "Okay." After hanging up, I received a text from an unknown number. "Kane, do you really think you've won? Don't forget, Isabella signed. If things get blown up, he won't get away either." No signature, but I knew it was Alex. I took a screenshot of the text and sent it to James, then replied with 4 words, just what I wanted. The day of the report, the sky was overcast. William walked into the police station with a cane, his back held straight. Margaret followed beside him, her eyes swollen, muttering all the way, "Old William, are you really going to make a big deal out of this? No matter how wrong Alex is, he still is Isabella's comrade. What if it drags Isabella into trouble?" William stopped and looked at her, then said, "Let him bear what he should bear." Margaret froze, "But he's your own daughter." "Precisely because she's my daughter, I can't let her stay muddled for the rest of her life." I stood at the entrance of the police station, hearing those words, and gained a new respect for William. Not every parent can refrain from shielding their child when they make a mistake. Most people would just say, "We're all family. Let it go." Isabella arrived quickly. Her hair was a bit messy, her face pale. As soon as she got out of the car, she rushed to William. "Dad, you can't report this." William asked, "Why?" "Alex has already contacted me. He said he'll pay the money back. He just needs time." "Where is he?" Isabella fell silent. William sneered, "He won't even show his face to return the money, and you believe him?" Isabella's eyes turned red. "Dad, if he really gets caught, his life will be ruined." I stood aside without saying a word. I've heard that line too many times. William had heard it too many times as well. He asked slowly, "And what about Kane?" Isabella was taken aback. "You took the money from you and your husband to give to Alex. You gave him your husband's car. You gave him your husband's house to live in. At the birthday banquet, he sat in the seat of honor while Kane carried bowls to the kitchen. You worry about Alex's life being ruined. But have you ever worried about how Kane has been getting through these past 5 years?" Isabella looked at me, tears streaming down her face. Kane, I know I was wrong. Can we not call the police first? I'll pay back the money. I'll pay it back slowly. I said, how are you going to pay it back? She opened her mouth. The training institution's funds had been misappropriated. Edward's shop was about to close. Margaret had no income, and William's pension wasn't high either. Her own salary wasn't even enough to cover the monthly mortgage and living expenses. Before, she thought none of this was a problem because I was there. Now that I'm gone, all the problems have surfaced. Just then, a police officer walked out of the station. Mr. William, do you have all the documents ready? William nodded. Yes, I do. I handed over the dossier I had prepared. Here are some transfer records, audio recordings, vehicle usage logs, and the threatening text messages Alex sent me. Isabella suddenly turned to me. Threatening text messages? I showed her the messages. After reading them, her face turned completely pale. Alex's final line, "He won't get away either," finally hit her like a slap in the face. She murmured, "How could he say that?" I looked at her. He's always been like this. It's just that before, his knife was pointed at me and you pretended not to see. Isabella shook her head, her voice breaking. No, I really thought he was just in a tough spot, that he just needed help. I didn't listen anymore. The statement-taking lasted over 2 hours. Alex's method of borrowing money wasn't complicated. Using the pretext of William's birthday banquet, he claimed the Harper family needed to manage gift money, make up for social obligations, and invest in an elderly care rehabilitation project. He borrowed money from several old comrades. Since he frequently visited the Harper home and had Isabella as a guarantor, many of the comrades didn't think twice. Some of the money did pass through Isabella's account, which was also Alex's leverage to threaten others. Isabella cried so hard during the statement that she could barely speak, repeatedly insisting she didn't know Alex was scamming people. Thinking it was just ordinary cash flow, the officer asked her, "Then why didn't you use your own money, but instead repeatedly used the joint marital account?" She had no answer. As I walked out of the police station, it started to rain. Isabella caught up with me, her voice hoarse. "Kane, I really didn't mean to hurt you." Holding my umbrella, I watched the rain fall on the steps. "But you did." Tears mixed with rain streamed down her face. "I know it's too late to say anything now, but we've been married for 5 years. Can you give me one more chance? I won't see Alex anymore. I'll find a way to pay you back the money. Please don't divorce me, okay?" This was the first time she explicitly said she wouldn't see Alex, not when I found him in the headseat, not when I found him sleeping in the wedding room, not when I discovered the $730,000 transfer, but only after Alex had dragged her into the mess, too. I asked, "If he hadn't threatened you, would you have stopped seeing him?" She froze. The answer didn't need to be spoken. I pushed the umbrella a little toward her, shielding her from the rain one last time. "Isabella, I used to think you were just soft-hearted." She looked up at me and I continued, "Now I understand. You're not soft-hearted. You just never saw me as someone who needed protecting." With that, I withdrew the umbrella, turned around, and walked into the rain. Behind me came Isabella's heartbroken sobs. I didn't look back. On the day we went to the Civil Affairs Bureau, the weather was beautiful. Isabella was 20 minutes late. She didn't come alone. A young lawyer was with her, along with Margaret. The moment I saw Margaret, I knew today wouldn't go smoothly. As soon as Margaret saw me, her face darkened. "Kane, you're so ruthless. Look how thin Isabella has gotten lately. Don't you feel any pity at all?" I didn't respond, instead looking at Isabella. "Did you bring the documents?" Isabella's eyes were dim. "Yes." Margaret immediately grabbed her arm. "Isabella, don't be afraid. He can't just divorce you as he pleases today. The house, the car, the savings. We need to fight for every single thing we're entitled to." I glanced at the lawyer behind her. The lawyer looked a bit awkward and nodded at me. "Mr. Kane, we'd like to first negotiate the division of assets." James stepped forward from behind me, smiled slightly, and said, "Fine." Margaret's expression changed when she saw James. "You brought a lawyer. Who are you guarding against?" James answered for me, "Against someone trying to claim premarital property as joint assets." Margaret's face flushed red, choked silent. We didn't go straight to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Instead, we sat down in the mediation room next door. The opposing lawyer spoke first. "Ms. Harper believes that although the marital home was registered under Mr. Kane's name before marriage. The couple lived together for 5 years after marriage, and part of the mortgage was repaid during the marriage. Therefore, she seeks appropriate compensation. James nodded. Reasonable. For the joint mortgage repayments during marriage and the corresponding appreciation, we'll calculate according to the law the compensation due. Margaret had just breathed a sigh of relief when James pulled out a second document. At the same time, during the marriage, Ms. Harper made multiple transfers to a third party, Alex, without Mr. Kane's consent. The preliminary confirmed amount is $736,400, part of which came from the joint marital account, and part involved misappropriation of funds designated by Mr. Kane for specific purposes. We demand the return of Mr. Kane's corresponding share according to the law, and we will file a case to recover the $22,000 in startup funds for the training institution. Isabella's face turned pale. The opposing lawyer frowned and asked her quietly, "You didn't fully disclose these transfers before." Isabella lowered her head. Margaret grew anxious. That money was lent by Isabella to a comrade, not spent. What right do you have to demand repayment? James turned the page unhurriedly. A loan? Then please provide the IOU, repayment plan, and explanation of the transfer's purpose. If you claim it was a gift, please also provide the basis for the gift, especially since Alex is currently involved in a fraud case, and the nature of these funds needs further investigation. Margaret's voice sharpened. You're bullying us. I looked at her. When you took the money before, you didn't think I was a person. She froze. Isabella looked up at me, tears starting to well up again. Kane, don't be like this. I said, just sign it. Her fingers clenched tightly, unmoving for a long time. After a while, she whispered, what if I don't agree? I looked at her, then I'll file for divorce. Pain flickered in her eyes. Are you that desperate to get rid of me? I didn't answer right away. Outside the mediation room, a young couple had just gotten there. The girl was holding the red marriage certificate booklet, beaming with joy. That smile stung my eyes a little. 5 years ago, Isabella and I walked out of there just like that. That day, she hooked her arm through mine and said, Mr. Kane, I look forward to your guidance from now on. Back then, I really thought we'd spend a lifetime together, but a lifetime is too long. Long enough for a person to slowly forget that the one beside them is the one they should be standing with. I pulled my gaze back and said to Isabella, it's not that I want to get rid of you. You pushed me away long ago. Her tears fell. Seeing that crying wasn't working, Margaret slammed the table. Fine, divorce. But the house has to go to Isabella, and the car, too. What's a woman supposed to do after a divorce? I laughed, don't you still have Alex? Margaret's face instantly turned ugly. That sentence was like a needle piercing through their last shred of dignity. Isabella finally broke down. Can you stop bringing him up? I looked at her, why can't I? Isn't he your comrade? The one who understands you best, needs you most, and is the most innocent? She covered her face, sobbing uncontrollably. James pushed the agreement across the table. Miss Harper, I suggest you read it calmly. A divorce by agreement is dignified for both parties. If it goes to litigation, bank records, recordings, surveillance footage, all of it will become evidence. The opposing lawyer was silent for a moment, then quietly advised Isabella, based on the current evidence, your chances of winning the house and car are slim, and this transfer could actually widen the dispute. Margaret was indignant. Whose side are you on? The young lawyer looked embarrassed. Ms. Margaret, I'm just stating the facts. Isabella stared at the agreement, her hands trembling violently. In the end, she didn't sign. She said, I need more time. I nodded, fine. As we walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, she caught up to me. Kane, if it weren't for Alex, would we have ended up like this? I stopped. The sunlight fell on the entrance of the bureau, blindingly bright. I said, yes. She froze. I looked at her and said, word by word, because the problem was never just Alex, it was you choosing him over and over, sacrificing me again and again, asking me to be understanding time after time. Without him, there would have been someone else. Isabella's face turned pale. Just then, my phone rang. James sent a message, court documents are ready. If you didn't sign today, we'll file tomorrow. I replied with one word, good. After the lawsuit began, Isabella truly understood what settling accounts meant. She used to think that between husband and wife, things were hard to clarify, but in court, every sum of money had a date, every recording had a timestamp, every vehicle location had a trail, and every chat record had context. She could no longer brush things off with, "We're just comrades." Don't misunderstand, or I didn't think that far. The first court session, Isabella dressed plainly, her eyes red, looking haggard and pitiful. Margaret sat in the gallery, clutching a tissue, and snorted coldly the moment she saw me. William was also there. He sat in the farthest corner, his back still straight, though his hair had turned noticeably whiter. Alex did not come. He had already been taken into custody in a related case and was being handled separately. Once the trial began, James first submitted evidence of the marital breakdown, the birthday banquet recording, hotel surveillance footage, photos of Alex occupying the marital home, property entry and exit records, vehicle violations and accident records, screenshots of Isabella and Alex's chats, and records of large transfers. One by one, Isabella's face grew paler and paler. The opposing lawyer tried to explain. Miss Harper and Alex are merely longtime comrades with no improper relationship. The relevant transfers, though inappropriate, were primarily out of comradely assistance, not malicious asset diversion. James nodded. Whether an improper relationship exists is not the sole focus of this case. What we argue is that Ms. Harper, during the marriage, systematically transferred substantial marital assets to a third party unrelated to the family, and that third party long occupied Mr. Kane's vehicle and property resources, causing actual losses. The judge looked at Isabella. "Ms. Harper, do you dispute the transfer amounts?" Isabella's voice was very soft. "No." The opposing party claims that some of these funds had designated purposes, such as startup capital for a training institution, reserved mortgage funds, and medical review funds. "Do you acknowledge that?" Her fingers trembled. "Partially." Margaret nearly stood up in the gallery, but William held her down. Then James submitted the chat records. "Alex, I'll take the car for a few days, so the client doesn't look down on me." Isabella replied, "Go ahead. He won't need it anytime soon. Even if he finds out, I'll just smooth things over." The courtroom was silent. Isabella kept her head down, tears falling one by one onto the back of her hand. I didn't look at her for long, because I was afraid of remembering the version of myself that once trusted her, and even more afraid of feeling sorry for that version of me. The trial was adjourned. William took the stand as a witness. Standing in the witness box, his voice was low, but clear. "Kane has been good to the Harper family all these years. He paid for the birthday banquet. He paid for the old house renovations, and he covered many of my hospital bills. The day Alex sat at the head of the table, I hit him, because I saw with my own eyes him stepping on my son-in-law's face." The judge asked, "Were you aware of Alex's loan?" William closed his eyes. "Not beforehand. I found out later. He borrowed money from my comrades in the name of my birthday banquet and had Isabella guarantee it. I've already filed a report." "Do you believe that the marital relationship between Mr. Kane and Ms. Harper has broken down?" William was silent for a long time. Isabella looked up, a glimmer of last hope in her eyes. William glanced at her, his expression pained. Finally, he said, "It's broken." The color drained from Isabella's face. William's voice grew hoarse. "It's my fault for not raising my daughter right. She took her husband's efforts for granted and mistook outsiders' flattery for sincerity. If Kane wants a divorce, I won't stop him." Margaret sobbed in the gallery. Old William. William didn't look back. At that moment, Isabella completely broke down. She covered her face, her shoulders trembling with tears. But in my heart, there was no sense of satisfaction I had imagined, only a weary feeling of everything finally settling. Before the trial ended, the judge mediated a settlement. Isabella suddenly stood up and looked at me. "Kane, I'm willing to pay back the money. I don't want the house, and I don't want the car either. I'll take responsibility for what I should in Alex's case, but can you not divorce me?" Everyone turned to look at her. She cried, "I know I was wrong. I was too arrogant before. I thought you would never leave. Thought that if you got angry, a little coaxing would fix it. Now I understand. I really understand. If she had said this half a year ago, I might have softened. If she had said it a month ago, I might have hesitated. But now, with the evidence laid out on the table and the wounds reopened time and again, only now do I hear her say, 'I know I was wrong.' It's too late." I stood up and looked at her. "Isabella, you didn't realize you were wrong when you lost me. You realized you were wrong only after losing the house, the car, the money, your dignity, and Alex." She trembled all over. I turned my gaze to the judge. "I insist on the divorce. Isabella slumped back into her chair. The verdict wasn't delivered in court, but I knew the outcome was not far off as I walked out of the courthouse. Margaret rushed over and blocked my way. She no longer acted as arrogantly as before. Her voice carried a plea. Kane, Auntie didn't speak nicely before. Don't take it to heart. Isabella really knows she's wrong. You've been together for 5 years. How can you just cut it off? I looked at this woman who once treated me like free labor, an ATM, and an outsider. She had finally bowed her head. But she bowed not out of respect for me, only because she realized I could truly leave. William came over and pulled her away. Let him go. Margaret cried. Are you just going to watch your daughter get divorced? William's eyes reddened. What else? Let him keep wasting his life on her. I nodded at William. He suddenly called out to me. Kane. I turned around. This old man, who valued his pride his whole life, bowed to me in front of the courthouse with people coming and going. I'm sorry. My throat tightened slightly. After a few seconds, I said, Dad, you have nothing to be sorry for. His eyes reddened. I corrected myself so naturally that Isabella cried even harder when she heard it. But I knew this was the last time. From now on, he was just William Harper, not my father-in-law. The day the verdict came down, exactly 3 months had passed since the first birthday banquet. The court granted the divorce. The marital home was awarded to me, and I compensated Isabella for the joint loan repayments and corresponding appreciation according to the calculated amount. Isabella's car was awarded to me with Alex bearing the recourse liability for related accident repairs and traffic violations. The portion of joint marital property that Isabella had transferred to Alex during the marriage was to be returned to me in the corresponding share. Alex's case was handled separately. The fraud and loan disputes were pursued together. Edward's shop closed. Margaret could no longer hold her head up among her comrades. Isabella moved back to the Harper house. Everything was like a toppled set of dominoes. Finally, the last piece had been found. William invited me to dinner. The venue wasn't a hotel, but an old noodle shop on an old street. He said, Kane, let's have a simple meal. Consider it this old man formally apologizing to you. I went. Not to reconcile, nor to give anyone a way out, but simply because William had never used his status as a father to pressure me from start to finish. The noodle shop was small with a yellowed menu hanging on the wall. William ordered 2 bowls of beef noodles and added a fried egg for me. When you used to come over for meals, you always gave your fried egg to Isabella, he said. I saw it. I smiled. Old habit, I said. He replied, a bad one. I said nothing. When the noodles arrived, William picked up his chopsticks but didn't eat. Kane, I've handled plenty of cases in my life and seen many people make foolish choices, but when it came to my own family, I still couldn't manage it well. I said, you did your best. He shook his head. No, I didn't. I noticed something was off with Alex a long time ago and even warned Isabella, but I kept thinking, he's in his 30s and matters between a married couple aren't something I, as a father, should meddle in too much. In the end, I just let her slip further and further into the wrong path. He took an envelope from his bag and handed it to me. I frowned. What's this? It's not much, just $20,000, he said. The Harper family owes you a debt I can never repay in a lifetime. This is what Margaret and I have saved over the years. Don't think it's too little. I pushed the envelope back. Let the judgment be carried out as written. I don't want your money. William's eyes reddened. Kane, keep it for your retirement. I said, I divorced Isabella not to leave you with nothing. He lowered his head and remained silent for a long time. The wind chime at the noodle shop door rang once. I looked up and saw Isabella standing there. She had lost a lot of weight, wore a gray coat, had no makeup on, and her eyes were terribly red. William frowned. Why are you here? Isabella didn't look at him, only at me. Dad told me. I put down my chopsticks. She walked step by step to the table, her voice very soft. Kane, can I sit for a while? William wanted to speak, but I shook my head. After Isabella sat down, her fingers kept clutching her bag strap. I read the verdict. I'll pay back the money on time. I've also withdrawn from the training institution, and I'll deal with any shares I can sell. I said, MHM. Her eyes reddened. Now you won't even say one more word to me. I looked at her. What needed to be said was all said in court. She lowered her head and gave a faint smile, tears falling. Yesterday, I went to the wonton shop we used to go to. The owner asked me why you hadn't come. And I realized that in these 5 years, it seems like every place has you in it. I didn't respond. She continued, before, I always thought you were silent, unromantic, and couldn't express yourself. Alex would listen to me, praise me, and show up the moment I felt wronged. I thought that was understanding me. Her voice choked up. Later, I realized he only shows up when I need emotional support. But you were always solving the real problems, the mortgage, the car loan, my mom's surgery, my dad's checkup, Edward's shop opening, the startup funds for my training institution. I used to take all of this for granted. She looked up at me. Kane, I was really wrong. The noodle shop was very quiet. William turned his face away, his eyes red and swollen. I looked at Isabella, and my heart was not entirely unmoved. After all, we had truly lived together for 5 years. Some nights had been genuinely warm, and some moments had been real love, but a person cannot offset continuous hurt with a few warm memories. I said, I accept your apology. A faint glimmer lit up in Isabella's eyes. But in the next second, I continued, but I don't accept getting back together. That glimmer died out. Her lips turned pale. Is there no chance at all? No. She seemed crushed by those 2 words, frozen stiff in her chair. After a long while, she took a small box out of her bag. Inside were our wedding rings. This, I could never bring myself to take it off. I glanced at it. My ring had been taken off the night of the birthday banquet. Now, it sits in a drawer in my studio, like a piece of expired memorabilia. I said, keep it or throw it away. It's up to you. She asked through tears, Kane, how can you be so cruel? I looked at her. Isabella, when I'm cruel, I just leave you. My voice was very soft. But, when you're cruel, you make me stand by your side and watch you choose someone else again and again. She shuddered all over and finally fell silent. I didn't finish that meal. Before leaving, William saw me to the door. He said quietly, live well from now on. I nodded. Take care of yourself, too. When Isabella chased after me, it had started raining again outside. She stood in the rain, her voice breaking. Kane, can we start over? I really won't do it again. I opened my umbrella and looked at her. 3 months ago, at the entrance of the police station, I shielded her from the rain for the last time, but even then, I knew we were over. This time, I didn't hand her the umbrella. Isabella, starting over doesn't mean turning over the old debts. I turned around. It means I no longer have to start with you. The day I got the divorce certificate, I didn't post on social media or celebrate. I just packed up the last of Isabella's belongings from our marital home and sent them to the Harper family via same-city courier. Then, I returned to my studio in the old town. It's a 2-story building. The first floor serves as a material showroom, and the second floor is my office and temporary rest area. Isabella used to complain that it was too dusty and lacked ambience, so I rarely brought her here. Now, I find it peaceful instead. Outside the window are plane trees, and downstairs, the occasional ring of an electric bike's bell. In the evening, the sunset falls on the wooden floor, casting a new light over old things. I took down the old blueprints from the wall and replaced them with new project plans. Life starts anew. Not as dramatic as I had imagined, it's just that I no longer have to read Isabella's expression in the morning. Worry about my mother-in-law suddenly calling to ask for money, cover Edward's shop expenses, or listen to my wife explain late at night why she had to go see Alex again. It turns out that ease isn't about having more, it's about finally no longer being drained. Alex's case eventually had a result. He borrowed money under various pretexts from the Harper family's comrades and acquaintances, totaling over $150,000. Some of it involved fabricated purposes and concealed real debts. Besides the criminal charges, civil recovery proceedings also began. I heard that inside. He even tried to shift the blame onto Isabella, claiming that much of the money was given voluntarily by her and that he was just borrowing it. Isabella had to go to the police station several more times to provide supplementary statements. The person she once defended the most ended up using her as a shield. I wasn't surprised when I heard this news. Human nature had already revealed itself at the birthday banquet's head table. After Edward's shop closed, the goods were sold off at low prices. Margaret initially cried in front of the comrades, saying I was too ruthless and had ruined the Harper family. But the comrades no longer sided with her. Someone directly said, "How much money your family has spent on Kane over the years? Don't you have a clue?" Another added, "Margaret, that's enough." You drove away a good son-in-law. Margaret has since become much quieter. William called me twice, once to update me on Alex's case, and once to ask how to calibrate the blood pressure monitor I had bought him. We didn't talk about Isabella again. He's a decent man who knows where to draw the line. A month after the divorce, Isabella came to see me once. I had just gotten back from the construction site, still covered in dust. She stood at the door of my studio, holding a thermos. I almost felt like I had traveled back years, back when we were first married. She would occasionally pick me up from work, complaining about the dirt at the site, but still waiting by the door. But now, the pride in her eyes was gone, replaced by nothing but caution. I made soup, she said. Your stomach used to be weak. I looked at the thermos in her hands. The worst stomach pain I had in those 5 years hit me at 2 o'clock in the morning. Isabella got a call from Alex saying he was drunk and couldn't find his way home. She tossed me just take some medicine yourself, and grabbed her car keys. That night, I went to the ER alone. She came back at dawn, saying, Alex almost got into trouble. I had no choice. Now she finally remembers my stomach is weak, but I no longer need it. Take it back, I said. Her eyes reddened. I didn't mean anything else. I just wanted to see you. You've seen me, I said calmly. Isabella, don't come again. We're already divorced. She choked up. I know, but I can't help feeling we shouldn't have ended up like this. I looked at her. We didn't end up like this overnight. It was every time you told me to be magnanimous, every time you told me to endure, every time you put Alex ahead of me. Step by step, we got here. She cried out. I only know now. I nodded. Then remember it. A glimmer of hope lit up in her eyes again. Then in the future, from now on, we each go our own way. This time, I left no room for negotiation. She stood there for a long time, finally placing the thermos at the door before turning and leaving. I didn't take it. Half an hour later, the cleaning lady asked me, Mr. Kane, whose thermos of soup is this? Should I bring it in? I said, no, please help me throw it away. The lady paused for a moment, didn't ask further. As the soup was poured out, a faint fragrance lingered in the air. I lowered my head and continued editing the drawings. There was no pain in my heart, only the feeling that an old chapter had finally been thoroughly cleared away. 6 months later, I took on a renovation project for an old street homestay. The project wasn't big, but it was very interesting. The owners were a retired couple who wanted to convert their ancestral home into a small courtyard homestay for their daughter to manage. The first time I visited the site, there was an old osmanthus tree in the courtyard. The elderly lady owner said, This tree is older than me. Don't cut it down. I smiled and said, I won't. Things aren't necessarily useless. The key is whether they've rotted. After saying this, I was startled myself. Later, the plan was finalized. I kept the osmanthus tree and designed the courtyard as an open tea area around it. On the day the project was completed, the elderly lady held my hand and praised me. This courtyard feels like it's come back to life. I stood under the tree, watching sunlight filter through the gaps in the leaves, and suddenly felt that life is the same. Some things can be repaired when they're old, but some things can only be torn down when they've rotted. Isabella last appeared in my life through a WeChat post, a screenshot sent by a mutual friend. He had posted a photo of the Civil Affairs Bureau entrance with a short caption. Some people you only understand after losing them. What he gave wasn't just a part of love, but the whole of it. Someone in the comments asked if he regretted it. He replied, I do. After reading it, I deleted the screenshot without commenting. Regret is his business, not looking back is mine. That evening, William sent me a message. Isabella is planning to leave the city and start over in the south. He asked me to tell you he's sorry. I replied, wish him well. A moment later, William added, and wish you well, too, Kane. I stared at the screen and typed back 2 words, thank you. The night outside was deep. The light in my studio was on with a new project contract on the desk and a freshly brewed cup of tea beside it. No arguments, no accusations, no late-night calls asking me to clean up a mess. I finally had the long-lost peace. Many people think that revenge must be spectacular, that it must make the other person kneel and weep, that every hurt must be repaid 100-fold. But in truth, the most ruthless revenge is when you truly no longer need him, no longer waiting for his explanation, no longer hoping he'll turn back, no longer throwing yourself back into the fire because of a single, I was wrong. On the night of the general's birthday banquet, Alex took the seat of honor, and I carried my bowl to the kitchen. Everyone thought I had lost, but they didn't know that from the moment I set down that bowl, I had already removed myself from that table. Later, the seat of honor was returned to the general, the car was returned to me, the house was returned to me, and as much money as could be recovered was recovered. As for Isabella, I returned her to herself as well, and I, Kane Miller, from that moment on, belong only to myself.